Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Nearly Verified. My name is Matt Puglisi. I'm your host, and this is episode 6. Today, we have got Shay Rowbottom on. Shay is the queen of LinkedIn, a marketing wizard, an expert in video, a storyteller, a new podcast host, much like myself, and overall just a passionate person whose energy is absolutely contagious. She has worked with companies such as Petco, Yahoo, and BuzzFeed, creating viral video content, generating tens of billions of views over her career, which is insane. In this episode, we discuss content creation, leaping into new experiences, and breaking down society's shame culture. Shay is such a genuine human being, and I want to thank her so much for coming on the podcast to chat with me. Her positive energy she brought to the show was like just the best. It was such a great conversation. And Shay, if you're listening, thank you so much for hopping on, and I hope you enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th episode of Nearly Verified. I'm with the queen of LinkedIn here, marketing wizard, expert in video, new podcast host, much like myself. Very glad to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on, Shay.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Matt.
This is so cool. I got the recommendation or the connection from Q and from Sam. They set me up with you. So if they're listening, thank you guys for making it happen.
I love those guys. Those guys are the best.
That's like Milwaukee. That's your squad.
It is my squad. I mean, I've talked about it on my blog a little about how Q got me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Really? That's like, yeah, you guys kind of started up at the same sort of time into LinkedIn video and like.
Yeah, he started before me. A sales rep of mine at the time found him, and it was just like divine timing. Like I didn't even realize what was happening when it was happening because I had no idea how like much my blog was about to explode. I was just like, all right, I'll try this thing. This Q guy, he seems to be working it. It's pretty cool. But in hindsight, like looking back on it, it's like, dude, that was a spiritual meeting between me and Q. Like, no, like before we were even born, I think Q's soul and my soul like agreed to meet at this time in our life so that he could help me get on LinkedIn, and then I could crush him. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, of course.
But, I hope to this day I'm his favorite client. I'm not sure.
I think it's safe to say, hopefully, that you are.
Hopefully,
But so for the listeners, maybe we could go back a little bit. How did you get into marketing, into video? Kind of like, what's your story there?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. Actually, originally I was a musician. So I was trying to make it as a performer in the Milwaukee area. I was a very talented lyricist. You know, I've always written poetry my whole life. That was kind of my thing. Wasn't the best singer. Like I was decent at singing, but didn't really have a lot of development and training there. So I naturally just gravitated toward rapping. Rapping is easier than singing. If you can keep a rhythm, you can rap. You know. So I followed my dreams for a few years. I mean, I really went at it heavily. I was just very naive. I had no business experience. I had no support from my family. So I was really just like a lost little girl in the wind with like, you know, my boobs pushed up and sequins and like running around. Like I really was not making it as a musician. I had fun, but it was not going anywhere. So I decided to get honest with myself when I was 23. I'd hired a videographer to shoot a music video for me. And like, I just saw that he was doing his own thing. He wasn't, you know, rich by any means, but he had his own business. He was making all this money from shooting and editing videos. And I quickly looked to video as like, hey, maybe this is something you could get into, Shay. Like this seems easier to make money on right now. And at that point in time, I had been doing music for many years with little success. So I decided to work for him. Shortly after we got a job editing Facebook videos for large pages on Facebook. So these large blogs with like 1 million followers on Facebook, they needed video content. They needed safe licensed clips that were relevant for their audience. Short, snackable, like, you know, you see the cat videos, you see the feel good stories, the tech products, all those sorts of like Facebook quick showcase style videos we started making. And both of us like quit what we were previously doing. I quit my music. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to dive all in. There's a market here for this. We started getting more and more Facebook pages to find out about us, to find out about what we were doing with the videos. And it really all started there. I had no idea what I was getting into at the time. Originally, I just thought I need to learn editing because this is a skill I can take with me anywhere. I want to learn how to edit. I see the value. But what I didn't realize I was learning in the process, which was even more valuable, is just how to get attention online. How to get attention online. Right. What I didn't know as an artist trying to make it as a starving musician. I mean, I learned from the top of the line Facebook pages. They were my clients. Like I always say, I should have been paying them. I was distributing Facebook videos to all of them, and they were constantly giving me feedback about what works, what doesn't work. I was able to see right away the fruits of my labor. Oh, this one went viral. Oh, if we edit it this way, it's gonna, perform better on with this audience. It was just so much data. I was swimming in data. I got really good at editing at that point. And then I ended up scaling that company and selling it in at the end of 2018. I sold my shares, and then early 2019 I moved to Miami, where I decided to create a LinkedIn video marketing agency because I had, toward the end of my time at that first company, the Facebook agency I founded, I had discovered LinkedIn through Q. I met Q in Milwaukee. He told me you should get on LinkedIn to get leads for your Facebook agency. I said, all right, let's do it. And then everything changed. I was like, you know what? This video marketing that I've learned on Facebook, nobody knows it on LinkedIn yet. I should just go to LinkedIn and teach everyone. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
So cool. It's such a cool story, and it's super interesting to see how you kind of took the skills from this Facebook agency. You had the foundation, I guess you could say, and then built upon like your personality and like you as a person, you as a personality into LinkedIn video. And it's kind of funny, like you were one of the first people that I followed when I first got on LinkedIn. I want to say, I started actively being on LinkedIn more like a year ago, and
Nice.
your like energy and your passion is so like contagious.
Yes.
It's so cool to see and like be a part of that community. And how did you know that video was something that you did well in? Like had you always kind of
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I was like, I definitely was my biggest fan as a musician. You know what I mean? It was like I saw the potential in me more than anyone else. And that's actually a side note here, but like that's really all you need for anyone listening. Like you think you need your parents to believe in what you're doing and everyone to approve of what you're after. It's like all you need at the end of the day is for you to believe it. So even though I didn't know what I was doing when it came to the music industry, I always knew I had a natural moxie on stage and a natural camera presence. I've always had that natural confidence. They say like one of the top fears in life for most people is public speaking. I'm like the opposite. I'm like, dude, I love public speaking. Like, throw me on the stage, I'll do it. So I will say that was always there. What was missing was the more pragmatic side of things, which is like, how do you actually market? Okay, it's one thing to be confident on camera. How do you actually ensure that the context of your message is valuable? How do you edit? How do you optimize it for the newsfeed? And that was the missing piece to this Shay Rowbottom brand you see today that I ultimately picked up through building that Facebook agency and creating content for others all those years.
right, right. And that's awesome. I saw a post, I think you posted it today or yesterday, and it was something along the lines of um just like jumping into things that you're interested in, like, and just starting is one of the largest hurdles for anyone that has an
Mhm.
idea, like a passion, a hobby. And it was the same for me. Like for my entire university career, like I've always wanted to do something for me, whether it be like create videos, this podcast. And I'd been like sitting on the idea. I'm like, okay, one day, one day, one day. And then just taking that leap of faith takes you so far. And like the skills can come along as you learn and as you develop and as you're just doing.
Mhm.
But for a lot of people, like that starting is just so daunting, so scary.
Mhm.
So from your point of view, like what would be some piece of advice for someone who's wanting to, take that first step to start writing or video or whatever it may be?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, it's a great question, and usually the main hurdle people come to me for, actually, I always joke like people just buy my program to give themselves permission to make video content, right? Because we lie to ourselves about needing all these qualifications. I mean, obviously, not to downplay my own program, there's a lot of information in there that people do really need to understand before they thrive and have success on social media. But, it kind of goes back to what I said before, like it's what you believe. So if I believe in order to be a successful business owner, I have to go spend 4 years at university to get a business degree, and I have to check off all these boxes of pre-qualifications, and then I'll be ready. It's always this like this endless chase humans have of like, well, I just need this thing. I just need one more thing to start. Oh, I'm starting a podcast. Like I need all these things in line. It's really not the case at all. And while it is good to be prepared, it's usually just a lot easier to learn as you go. So I am a type 7 on the Enneagram. It's a really ancient old personality test. Look it up if you're interested in learning a lot about yourself and your own tendencies. It's called the Enneagram. Enneagram Institute is where you can take the quiz to find out your type. Type 7s, and there's not 9 different types. Type 7s tend to do really well with like rapid change and like risk taking. So everything I just said, while it applies to everyone, I also think it's really important that we look at the individual because everyone is different. What scares one person might totally light up someone else and just excite them, actually. So, depending on your personality type, your level of experience, how bullied you were, it really depends. Everyone has a different starting point. But at the end of the day, the one common theme I do tend to see with business professionals is imposter syndrome, is feeling like there's something in them that's not good enough to get on camera and start making their own content. And that's a big part of what I coach people through in my program.
Absolutely. So I guess one of the hurdles would be to accept the fact that it's okay to not know what you're doing at times.
Yeah, and this is where I, again, type 7, and just me in general, like I'm really not easily embarrassed. I think that's a big thing for people. We live in such a shame-based society. Oh, you're doing this, that shame is like how we're parented. It's just kind of seen as normal. That's how we child rear in our culture. We shame kids into being who we want them to be, not realizing, oh, shame is like a really toxic way to influence someone. And we see it right now with coronavirus. Everyone's shaming one another. You're not wearing a mask. You're killing my grandma. Like that's like a way to try to influence someone through shaming them. I really do not succumb to shame, and I was shamed a lot in my childhood. I was, I come from a rough upbringing where there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of neglect, a lot of abuse. And I think that because I dealt with so much shame to like such the extreme at such a young age, it like flew me in the opposite direction where I was just like, you know what? Can I swear on here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was just like, fuck this shame. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, if everything I do is going to result in me being shamed and ridiculed and bullied anyways, I'm just going to start doing exactly what I want. And so, just remembering the age-old saying, what Gary Vee says, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. Do you want to, be liked by everyone and like tiptoe around life to make sure you're never embarrassed? Or are you willing to make a fool of yourself and potentially on the other side of that, achieve all your wildest dreams?
100%. And sometimes it takes people that little bit of push to kind of get them to the place where they say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try.
Mhm.
Um, and something that you touched on here and that I've kind of been speaking a lot about with people on this podcast is being very authentic and genuine, not just to yourself, but to your audience, for like whoever that may be. And something that I absolutely love about your message and just like how you portray yourself is you're so real. Like LinkedIn is a very cool place, so much cool content. It can at times get very stale and like that's like I guess kind of like weeding out, like that's not as much the case anymore, but historically it has been kind of a stale place. But when you bring such like, I don't know, energetic mindset and very like colorful message to the table, it gets people's attention. And like you have portrayed that very well. But being authentic and sharing your story like you have done on your podcast and in your content, I like give so much kudos to you because it's not easy by any means. And the fact that you've done it and like you have no shame. it's
Mhm.
incredible. So that's very
Thank
cool
you.
and very inspiring, like to young people that are listening, watching on LinkedIn, wherever. Like opening yourself up, not an easy thing. A lot of people have so many walls, and I think Sam Lister and I talked about this, like kind of breaking down those barriers and being real with yourself first. So then you can like portray that and like project that onto like whatever you're working
Mhm.
on is so important. But
Yes.
I guess a question for you would be, how can you work on kind of breaking down those walls, being true to yourself, and then in turn being true with your projects or your work or whatever it may be?
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful question. And I think it's a piece of advice that a lot of people could hear is surround yourself with people where you can feel safe to be your true, raw, vulnerable self. That's it. Anyone who is shaming you, for opening up, getting vulnerable, trying to follow your dreams even, like that takes vulnerability, especially in a society where we have this narcissistic parenting. Parents want their kids to be who they want them to be, and parents will go their whole lives missing out on who their kid actually is because they're so focused on who they want the kid to be. So a lot of times it comes down to family. I see a lot of people are held back from being raw and authentic because they have a filter on them of, oh, what will my family think? I was fortunate enough to remove that at a fairly young age. Like I said, and I don't wish abuse on anyone, but like I think because of the childhood I came from, it was like it was so in your face, the toxicity, that like I had no choice but to leave. I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. A lot of families, it's a little more subtle abuse, a little bit more subtle manipulation. So maybe they'll stick around longer than I did. But I just had no patience for it. I felt like I could never be myself around my family. I felt like they wanted me to be someone different. I felt like anytime I was authentic and shared, I was shamed and ridiculed. So I left. I decided to cut out, and not just my family, but any relationships around me that weren't allowing me to speak my raw thoughts and be my true self. And while it's lonely and scary to like go down that path and make that move, and there's a lot of self-doubt of like, um am I doing the right thing? What if my family really does know what's best for me, but no, I want to follow my heart, and that whole dance. So I did that, and it was hard at first, but I will say what you do when you remove those relationships from your life is you open up space to now start attracting relationships who do accept you for exactly who you are and who do allow you to be raw, vulnerable, authentic. That is the beauty of, getting rid of this sort of low vibration energy. A lot of people want to hang out with the low vibration and still try to attract the high vibration. It's like, energies don't work like that. You got to remove this first, then you'll start attracting relationships that actually align with you. And it's that simple. Surround yourself with people who value you for you, who support you, and who are going to love you unconditionally, and also, who are going to call you out on your bullshit, that you're genuinely your bullshit, not like manipulating you to be who they want you to be. But hey, Shay, you said you wanted to be a billionaire by the time you're 40. You're fucking around. You're not doing this. What, like, this is your goal. You need to be. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. So really being mature enough to surround yourself with people who are going to give you tough love when you need it. But at the end of the day, what's most important is you feel safe with them to be your true, vulnerable, and authentic self. And that's whew, I always cry when I think about this, but it is like it really is what I found in LinkedIn. I found that in LinkedIn. I was raw and vulnerable in my videos, and I feel like those were my friends, were my followers. Suddenly I started gaining all these followers who supported me for being open and honest, who confided in me, who trusted me. And it was like, wow, there is a market for this. There are a lot of people out there who accept me for being my true self. I'm going to keep going. And that was really the breakthrough moment for me when I realized LinkedIn and the world in general is just starving for authenticity. Shay, just be brave and be authentic and trust that things will open up for you.
Yeah, 100%. It's so cool to see because, like you said, there is like, the world is starving for that kind of message and that kind of content. Like there's so much BS out there that
Yeah.
people have to sift through in order to find people that are real. And something that I think is kind of cool or interesting, I guess, would be it's not easy to like open yourself up like that. And it's the same with like in anything in life, you're going to have to make sacrifice in order to get to the place that you want to be. So you could stay in those, like you said, like low vibration relationships, situations, work environments, whatever it is, because that's comfortable and that's easy. And people love like we're
Comfort.
exactly. People love to stay where they're at because it's familiar, and familiarity is
Yes.
comfortable.
I love that.
um but in reality, you have to make the hard decisions and those sacrifices in order to get to A to B to C, wherever you're trying to be. And that's something that I've seen in entrepreneurship. You know, people are working a 9 to 5, come home, and they're not watching Netflix. They're not going out. They're staying home and they're grinding in order to make that dream happen.
Yep. Yep.
And that's the same with relationships. If there's things that are holding you back, that are dragging you down, like you have to make those difficult decisions. And by no means is it easy for anyone that's even thinking about it. It's a very difficult decision and a long process, but Shay Rowbottom is a fantastic example of
Thank you.
making it out the other side, healthy and making it happen.
Yeah, thank you. And one more thing that I do want to say about that, because you bring up such a good point of like it's not easy. And I think there's another famous quote like if it was easy everyone would do it kind of thing. And that can apply to a lot of things, starting a business, getting open and authentic. But I will say, and I think this is the message the world needs to hear right now, is it will only get easier for everyone. Doesn't even matter your personality type or whatever. It will only get easier for everyone to start being more vulnerable and authentic when more and more people start getting vulnerable and authentic. So if you have doubt, if you have fear, just remember like you're doing this for the collective. Like someone is going to see you open up, and because they saw you open up, they're going to do the same. And it's this sort of domino chain reaction. And on the days I'm feeling a little like, oh gosh, like, can I really expose this about myself? Is this shameful? Should I be sharing this? That's what I always come back to and remind myself of is like, Shay, how many people out there do you think feel the exact same way as you and are scared to do anything about it? So just
Yeah,
share.
just share. No, it's a great message, and it's it's something that I think people are starting to kind of get more acquainted with, because
Yeah.
the internet's young, which is kind of weird to think about. Like we have not been to a lot of places on the internet that we're now kind of getting to. Like LinkedIn 3 4 years ago was nowhere near what it is today, which is very
Mhm.
exciting to kind of be a part of. And it's weird,
Right.
I've talked about this on the podcast before. As a 21-year-old, spending majority of my time on LinkedIn versus Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, weird to some.
Smart to Shay.
Of course, like it's such a great platform, and I could like literally talk about LinkedIn forever, and I
Yeah.
know maybe people wouldn't like love that, but I think it's so cool. And I would not be able to speak to Shay. I don't know why I'm talking in third person. I would not be able to speak to you um if it weren't for LinkedIn or Q or Mark or any of the people that I've talked to. It is such a powerful platform, and there's so much going on
Wow.
there.
That's
It
amazing.
is
So you met all of them on LinkedIn.
I hadn't even started the podcast. It had been an idea for like a year. And I don't even know if I've shared this on the podcast, but my original idea, which granted was terrible, was called the Mini Mic Podcast. I'm very glad I didn't go there, because it was literally, I found these like little mini microphones on Instagram. And I'm like, this is funny and charming. People will love this, and the sound will be awesome. And like I would have real interviews with these mini microphones. Like, so stupid.
That's
Didn't do it.
hilarious.
Thank you. But yeah, didn't do it. Whatever. I was sitting on this podcast idea, wanted to start doing something for me personally, because I was a part of a lot of like extracurricular organizations and clubs all throughout university, all throughout high school, all my time, all my resources going to those. And I loved it. Like, it helped me become who I am today. But I wanted to like do something for me. So I'm watching Q's LinkedIn Live, and I just like shoot my shot. Didn't even have a logo, didn't have like anything set. Q, about to start this podcast. Do you want to come on? Yeah, man, let's do it. Oh my goodness. I'm like freaking out in my
That's
room, like
amazing.
going
Yes.
insane. And that's how it started. And I interviewed him. I was very stiff, very nervous, as I am right now, but like did it. And it was like the coolest experience. He's like, man, I honestly believe in you. I want to help you out. who can we get on your podcast? And then
And then boom, you don't ask, you don't get, universe. So, and I really have to commend you, Matthew, because like, I mean, I'm 27, so I'm pretty young, but it's like at 21, or even Sam, I think Sam's 20. I don't know.
we're the same age, yeah.
Okay,
Or
yeah,
he's 20
like,
now. He's about to turn 21.
dude, bro, like when I was your age, I was not on LinkedIn, and I wasn't even anywhere near having like a business mindset yet. I was really behind. I really didn't get into business till I was like 23, 24. Um, but I will say you guys are rare, because there's a lot of temptations out there for someone your age. There's a lot of distractions, and you're just doing what's practical for you in the long run. It's kind of that idea of pay now or pay later. I had a decent balance, because I was definitely getting loose when I was your age, and then I cracked down a few years later. So I quit drinking like earlier in my 20s, but I definitely, when I was 21, was having a lot of fun, not really pragmatically building a business or getting on LinkedIn or doing anything close to what you and Sam are already getting a jump start on so young. So I just have to say, like, kudos, dude, because that's really admirable, and I can't wait to see where you are in 10 years.
Damn, that is so cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not to
Cut out that segment, post on your page. Shay testimonial for Matt. There you go.
huge shout out. Huge
Right.
shout out.
Bar on top that just says Shay approves of me. Validation. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's happening. You just spoke into existence. I'm making
All
it
right, let's
happen.
do it. All right, all right. And you see what else? You see what else I did there, Matthew? I actually just created an ad for myself by encouraging you to do that. I mean, I sold you on it because it's valuable for you too, but technically it's also valuable for me. So there you go, a little bit of
Unless
marketing.
I turn out terrible. That's the only thing. unless
You can still
I'm a
post
bad
on me.
apple.
You know what? No press is bad press. No, what's the saying? No advertising is bad. I don't know.
Something like that. Something like
Something
that.
like that. Kim Kardashian made a sex tape. Talk about shame. That blew
Yeah.
up her brand. That was Kris Jenner planned this the whole time. She knew.
The puppet
But
master.
but yeah, like, actually, quick side note, and then I'll let you ask your next question, is like, Grant Cardone, he has a video where he's talking about his haters. And because I think somebody had asked him, like, how do you deal with the haters? Because there's definitely a lot of people that that hate on Grant and that whole brand and whatever. And he was like, like, my haters actually promote me way more than my fans. Because think about it, when you hate someone, when you're angry with someone, you're way more likely to like talk about it. If somebody is just like driven mad by Shay, they're more likely to actually discuss me than someone who loves me. Someone who loves me is like, there's Shay again, I love that girl, and then they kind of move on with their day. It's almost like if you eat at a restaurant and have a great experience, you might not go write a review, but if you go and have a terrible experience, you're gonna be like, I'm writing a review on Yelp, and I'm gonna. So I loved when I saw that video of Grant. I was like, dang, that makes so much sense. He says, I wish my fans promoted me as much as my haters do. So there you go.
No, it's cool. It's yeah, your haters will definitely run up your comments.
Yeah.
And I think there's a video of you and like a few friends celebrating someone's birthday that you posted.
Oh yeah, the
You
COVID
got
thing.
some hate. You definitely got some
Right.
hate, as
Right.
does anyone who's posting literally anything right now. Like, like there is
That's funny.
nothing you can do. But it's so funny that you say that. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it is. I think that this coronavirus is very beautiful, because it's really just it's thrown us into our own bullshit so fiercely that everyone is kind of finally snapping out of the whole like cancel culture thing and the shaming. As I mentioned, shame is so toxic. That's like all we do in this country is shame each other. But yeah, the cancel culture, like, it's really got to go. Like, it's never the solution to fight with hate. You have to fight with love, and that's how love always wins. So yeah. I wouldn't even advise brands and anyone listening, it's like, don't post about that. It's like, you know what, we just need to accept that there's people out there that aren't going to agree with us, and they have the ability to make their own decision. But know that the more you are your true self, the more you will actually attract clients who align with you really anyways. So, I mean, yeah, I probably upset some people with that video, but I have no shame. It's just like, these are my beliefs. This is what I'm doing. And it was a fun party. It was really fun.
Oh, it's a great message to put out. I mean, it's also interesting to me that specifically on LinkedIn and just in general, like all across social media in the world, like women get this hate far more than men do. Like it seems that way, at least.
Yeah.
So
Did you
I'm just sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, did you know there's actually a study done that the more financially successful a woman becomes, the less likable she becomes.
Oh, brutal.
However, the more financially successful a man becomes, the more likable he becomes. So it's like opposite. Um, but yeah, go on. Your question. How do I feel
Uh,
about being a woman? Is that what you're gonna say?
this just kind of in terms of like women in leadership, women in powerful positions. Like,
Mhm.
where do you think we're at in terms of the corporate world, in the LinkedIn world, and like where do we need to get? Like, how can we get there?
Yeah, oh God, Matt, there's so many levels to that question because I didn't know like anything about like genders or like masculine and feminine energy. I really didn't know much about it until I started on my own healing journey and on my own spiritual path. Um because I was in a really masculine dominated environment, which is fine, that it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It's just that I killed all of my own femininity and it made me very miserable. I also was like a huge feminist. I'm like a what's the term? I'm a recovered social warrior or whatever. So, feminism, I think originally like the intention starting out was one that was for the higher good and for women to gain equality to men. The whole movement kind of became toxic. It kind of just became about hanging on to your victimhood, wanting to prove something. And I noticed a few years ago when I stopped following all of my feminist blogs, I stopped feeling like a victim all the time because a lot of the news they share is like, did you know that men have this advantage here and men have this advantage here and here? And I literally felt like such a victim already. It made sense that I was called to that sort of movement and was like, I'm discriminated against as a woman. I got to do something. I got to talk about it. But ironically, all I did was attract men who actually were sexist. Like it sounds backwards, but that's what happened is because I believed I lived in a world that was so sexist, that's what I manifested. Now, on top of working and being surrounded by a lot of just very like yeah, very sexist men, I was in a masculine field. I was in video editing, business is masculine, this and that. So I grew very miserable. But what happened on the other side of that, and if you go listen to my podcast and my story, I break down all of this and how I got out of it and why I started to heal. I realized women are dope and there's literally nothing holding me back at all other than my own beliefs. So as soon as and LinkedIn helped with this a lot because I started to grow a following. 70% of my audience is male. Most of my clients are male. Half of my employees are male and and they respect me. So it was really just a shift in mindset. And then I started to attract men who valued me for me, who were not sexist at all. I don't think about it at all. I had someone say to me the other day, oh man, I post like the same stuff as you, but you get way more hate. I think it's because you're a woman. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't even notice that anymore. Maybe that's true, but I don't focus on that. I focus on what I can control and who I can attract. And then the other piece that I was touching on in here that I do want to come back to is just, I do think that women need to be women. I do think that unfortunately we have created a world in which feminine energy is not valued. It's not valued in business. It's not valued in society. It's like, be masculine or go home. It's like, all right, like I mean, we can do that, but what's going to happen? It's going to create a bunch of miserable people because now all of these women have to be in their masculine all the time to perform, to compete, to make the same money, and it creates a culture of and I want to be clear when I say this, I'm a woman in business. I have no issue with women being in business. It's awesome. It's just there's a different natural inclination of women and what they're good at and what they enjoy than men. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a woman and still being like, I just feel really called. I want to raise children. I want to garden. I want to be creative. I want to be free. Like, those are all feminine qualities. That's great. If you're a guy and you want to lead and you want to be assertive and you want to, sometimes it's confused as like toxic masculinity. That's not toxic. Like, that's how men naturally are. Like, that's fine. And I think that we've created this world where like we've made both traditional gender roles so wrong. We've been like, if you're not a woman who's like totally masculine today and competing with the dudes, oh, you're not for feminism. And if you're a guy and you're doing typical guy stuff like being dominant and assertive, oh, it's toxic masculinity. It's like, it's just bullshit. It's bullshit. It creates this culture of really unfulfilled women who don't feel like they can be women, which I don't blame them, because no one is valuing that feminine energy. It's like, be masculine or go home, like I said. But what happens is these women end up bitchy, and then they cannot really coexist in a balanced relationship because the guy feels like he can never do anything right because the woman's in her masculine. She's trying to, it's like, look at society. This whole, and I want to also be clear, I'm very liberal. Like, I support LGBT, whatever. Anyone can do whatever they want. As far as I'm concerned, it's not my business. But I do believe that there's a ton of sexual dysfunction in society today because of how much we've just valued masculine energy over feminine energy. So I want it to stop. I want women to understand, like, look, feminism, while for a good cause, can really just keep you in a place of victimhood. I think the best thing that I ever did was got honest with myself about, no, I am feminine, and I do sometimes just like to go hula hoop in the park, and that's fine if I take a day off work to do that. Like, that's cool. And not killing myself if I'm not like hustle working all the time. I'm a lot more balanced now, and I'm a lot happier. And I really can't remember the last time I felt discriminated against because of my gender, because I simply stopped believing that that was the reality for me.
Powerful, very powerful.
Yeah, that was long. Oh my God. That was its own podcast. But yeah, that's really how I feel, And I do think it can be taken the wrong way in today's age. A lot of people might see that and say, Shay, what are you doing? You're sending women backwards. Like, not every woman wants to be a housewife. I know that. It's like, look, I am a woman in business. I love what I do, and it is masculine, and that's fine. All I'm saying is, for the women that still do want to do more traditional woman things, and men who want to do more traditional male things, that's fine. We need to stop making it wrong. It's the most natural thing.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of like societal pressure, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
and just like a twisted perspective on like gender norms. People assume that you need to, if you're a certain gender, you need to be doing a certain thing, living a certain lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like not the reality, especially not today when our world is like flipped, turned upside down. It's just, I think we need to be a lot more understanding and
Right.
a lot
And
more.
understand the difference between feminine and masculine, because like, when I say we don't value feminine energy like is spirituality. It is like being connected to God and not being so serious all the time. And like, we've lost that. We're so disconnected from that. We're so disconnected from nature. Women are nature. Like, I just want to give out an example real quick, because I feel like maybe it isn't clear for people who don't really understand the difference between masculine and feminine energy. Like, when I say we don't value feminine energy, I mean like here's a sort of um, practice that would probably come from a female or be more spiritual or be more feminine. Hey, you're gonna pay me to go into your office space, look at the way the desks are all laid out and the way that your employees are congregating, and do some like feng shui and move furniture around so that the energy in this room can flow better and everyone can work better. That's like a feminine energy. That's not something a lot of businesses value. They'll be like, no, this is stupid. We like that has nothing to do with making money or profits. The desks can stay where they are. Let's make money. And it's like, okay, so that's what we keep doing. but we actually need to get more in touch with spirituality. There actually, you guys, as corny as it sounds, is some truth in the feng shui and the energy flow of things and how that affects the cohesiveness and the productivity of a company. So that's what I mean when I say we don't value that energy as much. Maybe a company will pay for it, but they'll pay very little for it. They're going to pay more for the guy, for the Grant Cardone to come in and do the 10x sales training because that's how we turn profit right away, you know? So I think it just comes down to faith, having faith that even though the masculine traits seem like a more instant ROI, and that's why everyone goes to that, the feminine traits are a more lasting, more fulfilling, and sustainable future in the workplace for everyone.
So interesting that you bring that up, because my first internship I did was at a software scale up startup, and the CEO and like the two founders were women, and I
Oh,
just
nice.
had yeah, it was awesome. I just had one of the CEOs, or the CEO, sorry, on the podcast, and I was just geeking out about how incredible the culture was, and how much like they
Yes.
care about the people and their well-being, and like that
Yes.
so it kind of relates to what you're saying in terms of like feminine energy. Like, she's such a powerful woman in tech, powerful woman in business, but she still has such a caring, like nurturing side of her that really benefits the
I
company, and they're
love
doing
that.
like amazing things.
Yeah, I love
um
that. You need the balance. You definitely need the balance. Claude Silver is a good example of that too. Gary V's chief heart officer. I just interviewed her on my podcast. That's exactly what it is. It's like bringing that feminine energy into business.
it was so I listened to that podcast, and there was a part where she was saying that she gets some backlash for leading with love,
Yeah,
and like that's like a weird thing. Like, love should be out of the workplace. That doesn't make sense. Like, we're supposed to be, ROI focused. Where does love have to do with it? What does heart have to do with it?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
it goes a long way, and that's why they're doing, or it seems that they're doing things very differently over there. And it's a contagious
Yeah.
message.
Right. It's more sustainable. At the end of the day, we haven't been leading with love in business, and we have for a very long time now only been valuing masculine energy. And like, look where it's landed us. People are miserable. I think it's like studies show like 80% of people don't like their jobs. There's a huge poverty gap. There's depression. There's suicide. There's addiction, obesity. I mean, like, I truly do think the root of it is like we do not have enough feminine energy uh in society. We're not valuing it, but it's changing now. And Gary and Claude are some trailblazers. So thank you, VaynerMedia.
Shout out. No, it's very cool to see. And it's exciting to see like the progression of that. But Shay, I think it is time for a little bit of a lightning round if you're up for it.
Yes, let's do the lightning round. I'm so up for it.
Cool. Yeah, so first thing that pops in your head, if it's super interesting, I may ask you to expand on it. But here we go. First
All right.
question, what is your drink order? It could be like a coffee, tea, whatever.
Just water.
I
I
like
don't
it.
know.
No,
I just drink water. Is that interesting? Should I go into that more?
yeah, can we dive in?
Can we tap in? No pun intended. Oh.
Nice. Favorite music artist?
I don't even know anymore, honestly. My favorite music artist, like, if I mean, I would still say Atmosphere. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're
I
a hip
haven't.
hop duo from Minneapolis. Like, I actually don't really listen to them so much anymore. They're so old. They've been doing music for decades. Um, just basically really conscious underground rap. I've always loved rap. I love hip hop, but I like deep stuff, and I like, stuff with substance. So I would say Atmosphere. Like, that was literally the first thing that came to mind when you asked, but I was literally about to be like, well, I can't answer that. I don't really listen to them anymore. But no, it was a huge influence in why I became a rapper in the first place, was listening to their music growing up. So still a fan, don't listen as much. I like all music. I listen to a lot more spiritual music now, but I'll always love hip hop. I still love my Nicki and my Cardi B and all that. Um, yeah, anything but what's it called? Metal.
Yeah,
Who I don't understand why people like that. That is
a little
torture.
scary. Yeah,
Right. People say anything but country. I'm like, anything but metal. Country is like,
it's chill.
it's beautiful compared to metal. Yeah.
Oh, side note, we haven't talked about it on the pod, but Shay was on American Idol, and I used to watch American Idol religiously with my fam. So
Yeah, me too.
Such a throwback, but
Yeah, it is. Good times. Shout out American Idol 2012. That was me with a mohawk and the bleached hair. I did
amazing.
it.
um, does pineapple belong on pizza, Shay?
Yes,
Okay.
100%. It's so good. So good.
Biggest pet peeve?
Mm, biggest pet peeve. I don't really know. Once you become spiritual and you heal, shit just doesn't bother you anymore. I guess people who lie, not telling
Cool.
the truth. Yeah.
Good one.
Narcissism. That's the Shay Rowbottom answer right there. What is your biggest pet peeve? Narcissism. Oh man. That should have been the clip. Okay.
That's awesome. And then can you describe yourself in 3 words?
Yes. I would say innovative, energetic, caring,
That's awesome.
and
Really cool.
bold.
Bold. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah, that's just about wrapping up the lightning round, Shay. I was just wondering if you have anything that you want to leave with some young listeners that are looking to chase their dreams, whatever that might look like, or just get into video, get into creating.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot I could say. If you guys want more marketing advice, you can always just follow me on LinkedIn, follow my business page on LinkedIn too. But for anyone listening who's just starting out, trying to forge their own path, figuring things out, I would just always advise you to be curious, Be curious. That is the you know what? Actually, that was a word I should have used to describe myself. Curious. That's in my human design. Like I'm just a curious woman who sticks my nose into everything. And I think that when you operate from the place of acting like you know it all, you can't actually grow. Righteousness and the need to be right keeps us from growing. So if you can instead get curious about things like well why is the world this way, or why is everyone sick, or why do my parents not want me to start making video content, you can actually open up space to go down a path that otherwise wasn't available for you. And at the end of the day, it really just comes back to you believing in yourself. I know for a lot of people listening, you probably have a dream or something that you still feel like is out of reach, you still feel like it's unrealistic, you're scared. How bad do you want it? I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. People come to me, they're like, "Oh, I've had these goals, I can't get it." They're victimy. They're like, "I don't know. I mean, I've tried." I'm like, "You don't really want it." And then they get mad. They're like, "No, of course I want it." I'm like, "No, you don't." Because if you've been doing this for this many years and you're still running in circles, there's obviously some self-sabotage that's happening for a reason. Deep, deep down, there's something in you that's actually scared of having success. Or maybe you feel like by following your own dreams, you're abandoning your parents and your family and what they wanted for you. So you subconsciously sabotage yourself. If you really, truly, in your heart, want something, you will figure out a way to make it happen, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how much pain you have to get through, no matter how many haters you have to learn how to block out and manage that. It is so worth it on the other side when you start to listen to your heart and forge the life that you really want. So take it easy. Maybe some of you are at that lightning bolt moment of like, yes, I'm breaking through, I'm doing it, I really want it. Maybe some of you are just starting to explore what you want anyways, and you're not gonna, bust through that barrier right this second. That's okay too. Be easy with yourself, be patient, treat yourself like how you would want to treat your own child. Be that gentle with yourself. What does that little child Matt need? What does the child Shay need? What programming is still running in the back of my mind that came in before the age of 7 that I still need to clear about? Oh, I'm not good enough, I'm shameful, and this and that. Go back and talk to that child and reprogram some new beliefs. Like, hey, that bullying incident that happened when you were 6 on the playground, it still haunts you. Well, let's go back and rewrite that. That never happened. In fact, that kid came up to you and said you were the coolest kid ever and invited you to their birthday party and wanted to go ice skating. There is a lot of truth in us being grown wounded children. So remember that when you feel like just so down on yourself, you're probably being really hard on your inner child who's just begging for you to pour love and encouragement into them. So that's what I would leave the audience with. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, you can always email me at shayrowbottom.com, or like I said, just follow me on social media, and especially LinkedIn.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Shay. I will have all of Shay's information in the description of this podcast and all over the promo stuff. But again, Shay, thank you so much for being here. It was an awesome conversation, and I'm really glad that we got to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Matt. And I'm so excited to see where you go, brother. 10 years. 10 years, we're going to do the Gary Vee video thing where we cut this clip where I'm like, I can't wait to see you 10 years from now. And then you're going to be like in a jet somewhere doing it's not going to be 10X. It's going to be 100X. It's going to be like massive. So we'll do it then.
I hope so. I hope so. But seriously, thank you for all of the kind words. This was so cool. And like, you're such a genuine person off of LinkedIn. It's just really cool to have done this. So I really appreciate
Aw,
you and your time,
thank you.
Shay. So
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Matt.